Ladies and gentlemen who have gathered here, once again today I am asked to speak about the power of habit. I think this is not the first time for me to speak on this subject in the Occident. Many times in many places I am asked to speak, and therefore I understand better what habit is, because it has almost become a habit for me to speak on this subject. But at the same time, it is an important subject, because we just care very little to understand what habit is, and there is much more to know and to make better use of in what we call habit. There is no one in this world who is not habituated to many things, good and bad. But he is wise who tries to understand what it is, and he is wiser who tries to make better use of the power of habit. In this sense, it is a very valuable subject to speak and try to understand. To a spiritualist, everything is important. To a student of nature who wants to be a devotee of creation, there is nothing that is less important. And we try to pay more attention to the subject habit. We know vaguely what habit is, because we have our own habits, and we wonder how habit wields its influence upon us if we just observe a few things. I wonder how I could appreciate strong coffee before I was habituated to coffee. Many times I tried to offer coffee to a friend who is not habituated to coffee. He tasted it and said, "In what way it is better than milk?" I had no answer. He said, "I am habituated to take milk with sugar in the morning, and in what way the coffee is more tasteful?" Another friend said, "I am habituated to take a tablespoon of honey in the morning. Now, if I attempt to take some strong coffee offered by you, I feel like vomiting." That is what he said. Of course, I had no reason to contradict what he said, because even after 50 years of the habituated mind to coffee, I still feel that honey is better than coffee in its taste, and I have no right to deny that sugar with milk is more tasty than coffee. So I try to understand that there are two types of taste. One is natural taste and the other is cultured taste. If we try the two things with a newly born child, we can understand the truth of it. You touch the tongue of a newly born child with honey and observe his face and expression, and give a touch with strong coffee, and then observe the expressions of his face. I think the first example gives an expression of expansion, whereas the second example gives an expression of contraction of face muscles and nerves. Of course, the expansion and contraction of the face muscles is only symbolic of something which is more subtle, just like the features of laughing and weeping. What we call laugh manifests itself on the face in the form of the expansion of the muscles and the skin and the nerves. But in fact, the physical expansion is not what takes place in the person. It's only a symbolic expression of what happens in him. Similarly with weeping. If a person weeps, there is a peculiar contraction of the nerves and the muscles, and the glands are at work. But it is not what happens in the person. Something happens in the person which produces these changes in the nerves and the muscles and the glands. The nerves and the muscles and the glands are of the physical plane, whereas laughing or weeping is of the astral or the mental plane. Laugh takes place on the mental plane, but laugh finds its expression on the physical plane. So we have the symbols of laughing and weeping, which represent the expansion of laughing and the contraction of weeping. Expansion of what and contraction of what? Try to answer the question to yourself. We can say self-expansion and self-contraction, because the expansion of mind is also symbolic and it's not the beginning, and the contraction of the mind is also symbolic. The person expands and the person contracts when he laughs and when he weeps, and the expression of life is natural when there is expansion, and it's unnatural when there is contraction. We can symbolically express that expansion and contraction correspond with what we call life and death. At least we can understand that a person is happy when he is expanding and he is unhappy when he is contracting. This is because a person wants to be happy and he doesn't want to be unhappy. The natural preference of a person to be happy indicates that what he calls happiness corresponds with expansion, and he prefers to have it. And what he calls contraction, what he calls unhappiness, corresponds with contraction, and he naturally prefers not to have it. Every one of us wants to be happy, and we try to avoid unhappiness. Directly it indicates that happiness is natural and unhappiness is unnatural. And if we observe the face of a newly born child when his tongue is touched with coffee, we find an expression of contraction in the face. And when honey is touched, we find an expression of expansion. This unfailingly proves that neither the touch of honey nor the touch of coffee is totally a conditioned reflex. It's not a conditioned reflex. There is something else in it, and the difference is more absolute than it appears to be. We have to accept that the child desires to have a touch of honey and disdains to have a touch of coffee, and yet a person like me craves for coffee. I feel very much happy when I find good coffee. This happiness, which is cultivated, is quite different from the happiness that the child shows. So we can very easily understand the power of habit. Habit controls the mind in such a way that through slow degrees it forces the mind to accept that it is happiness. The same thing we have to accept about alcoholism and narcotism, etc. No doubt, alcohol makes people happy. No one can deny it. But the happiness is a force of habit, or what the habit makes us call it happiness. In our regional language, Telugu, there is a saying by a great poet. It runs like this: repeat, repeat. Your music is better. That is, the more you repeat, you will be a better musician. Eat and eat, bitter things grow sweet. That is, if you eat for the first time something which is bitter, it is too bitter to you. If you eat for a second time, it is less bitter. A third time, it is less bitter. After 10 years, it is sweet. That is what the poet describes. I think there is much truth in what he says. I use a substance called nut powder, and it is too bitter to eat. Even after 40 years of habit, I still remember that it is bitter. But still, I feel it sweet when I chew it. And I know how bitter it was when I first made Ruth to taste it. She tasted it and she might have thought that I was a fool to taste it. But I made her taste it a second time. It was less bitter. After 3 or 4 years of acquaintance with me, now she finds it sweet. And daily after lunch, she herself prefers to take a part of it and chew it. So that is what is called the force of habit. And about habit, we need not speak only of negative habits. We can speak of also positive habits. Those who have positive habits, they can never deviate from their habit. That's why Patanjali advises us that it is not enough if you understand what is good. Because if you take a balance, if you put understanding on one side, still it is heavy on the other side. So we understand many good things, but still we feel like doing what we do previously. So if someone says that understanding good things is helpful, we have to accept that it is not at all helpful. Knowing good things, still the balance is like that. There is something more weighty here. I know Shakespeare, I know Milton, I know Shelley, Keats, and I know the Old Testament and the Gospel. I know many of the scriptures, but still I drink coffee. So, all these holy books about which I talk, they are less weighty when they are there in the balance. There is something in me which is more powerful than the holy book, something more powerful than the Holy Ghost himself. So, Bible is not able to lift it up. The Lord God is not able to lift it up. Many scriptures, when placed here, they are not able to lift it up. The same thing is true with any one of you also, not only myself. If any one of you have these things more weighty, I am searching for you because I want to follow you. Let me discover you and find out who you are. I want to follow your footsteps. Till now I could not find your address. And then let us try to add one more weight here. Reasoning. Still it is like that. Not less than 100 doctors proved that coffee is not good to my health. They could give out the best reasons why it's not good to me. They could analyze the situation of my kidneys and my bladder. And they have proved and they could convince me that it's not good. Still you find the same thing. I know that it's not good to my health. I am medically convinced that it's not good. Scientifically convinced. Rationalistically convinced. Add rationalism. But still there is something which makes me love coffee. Because I know coffee loves me so much. And I am faithful to coffee and coffee is faithful to me. And no one of these great fellows could come in between. And this is the power of habit. Can you tell me what makes the balance wave this side, move this side? If you have, yes. If you have an effective method, you please tell me, let me share. That's it. Exactly. Only 2 people could advise me this till now. One is Patanjali and the second yourself. Here, what I have is habit. So, Patanjali advises us, you have to practice yoga. How? To practice a set of asanas, standing on the head, or practicing yoga more and more like this, or going into the forests and practicing yoga with the wild beasts. No, he says, you have the habit of the 5 senses and the habit of the mind that is behaving through the 5 senses, and the outer world attacking your mind from 5 sides. That is your sight, your hearing, your smell, your taste, and your touch. The objects of these 5 senses, they present themselves to your mind through your senses. But the objects are not bad. The senses are not bad. The mind is not bad. They are all the gifts of nature and they are sacred and noble. But an activity is going on which we can call reaction. Reaction to the environment. Whereas you are expected to have action, you are having only reaction to the environment. When you are in the presence of others, you are behaving in terms of others' presence. This is conditioned by others' presence. When you are with Rudolph, you are behaving in terms of Rudolph. When you are with Robert, you are behaving in terms of Robert. When you are reacting to light, you are in terms of behavior with light. But where is your natural behavior? When do you behave like yourself? There is no opportunity, because you are reacting to one of these 5 senses as long as you are awake. So, you are behaving in terms of any one of the 5 senses. You are not behaving like yourself. There was no occasion on which you expressed yourself as yourself. This is what has become a habit with you. Now you have to neutralize this habit. How to do it? How to suspend the reaction you have? Because when once you suspend the reaction, you are there as yourself, quite natural. But how to suspend it? You should find yourself leisurely to talk to yourself. Now, if you try to fight out the reaction, you are adding to the reaction. No use. A gentleman wanted to start a new political party to teach people that the world is suffering from too many political parties. He wanted to prove us the evils of too many political parties. So he is trying to start a new party. He is only adding to the already existing nuisance. No use of opposing the reaction. There is no use of trying to fight out the reaction. If I think I should not react, I begin to react to the idea that I should not react. Without this idea, it was better because one idea was less previously. So Patanjali says, don't oppose the ideas you are having, but try to have an idea which possesses you completely, which possesses your mind and senses completely, so that all this activity becomes null. So you have to create a new center of force, and you have to create a new activity which is all positive, and then the existing activity of reaction stops. Do you know how to do it? There is a specific scientific process to follow, and it is what is called yoga. That is what Patanjali says. Unfortunately, the word yoga is used more flippantly in the Occident nowadays. If a person teaches you about 50 asanas and some quantity of respiration to be stored in your lungs for some time, and teaches you some self-smothering in the name of pranayama, and then he calls the whole process yoga. Everyone has his own yoga to teach you, whereas there is only one yoga in the world in its scientific sense. And Patanjali advises us for the first time that you should neutralize the habit by practicing a habit. He advised you exactly as our friend Robert advised us. Practice another habit. He said, repeat. Practice repetition. That is what Patanjali advised. We see a musician repeats a line 10 times or 20 times as he sings it. An ordinary intellectual who is not evolved enough to be a good listener of music, he wonders why the musician repeats so many times. Sometimes he finds it meaningless. Are we deaf? Why he should repeat the line so many times? He finds no much significance because he is not evolved enough to listen to music. It's not for the meaning of the sentence that the musician repeats. Repetition has a different impact. Understanding is different from the effect we receive from repetition. If you teach a few lessons from the gospel, I can very easily understand it much more easily than I understand a mathematical problem, because in the sentence of the gospel there are no problems. If you say, love thy neighbor as thyself, I can very easily understand it. There is nothing difficult in it for me to understand it, whereas the difficulty lies in making myself better. I am not very much interested to make myself better because I want to possess better things. I am interested in having better things instead of becoming better. This essential foolishness makes me not understand the simplicity of the gospel. You see, I do not understand the peculiarity of the logic. When I love to possess better things than make myself better. That's why I find the sentence of the gospel very simple. No doubt it is very simple because I am applying a wrong instrument to it. Understanding is not the thing that is to be applied to the sentence of the gospel. If there is a mathematical problem, then understanding is the thing required. So I find it very easy. But if my father asked me to repeat the gospel sentence daily, I was foolish to think that my father was a fool, because I did not understand what he wanted. He repeated it lifelong, and he has it intact, because I could not convince him that understanding is more important than living. He was eating better food, and when I could convince him that understanding is better than habit, he was never convinced. So a sentence of the gospel is simpler than a mathematical problem, whereas there is something to practice in the sentence of the gospel. In the mathematical problem, there is only something to understand and not to practice. That's the difference. Patanjali asks us to begin to do something and repeat. I can ask him, anything? Patanjali says, yes. I can ask him, even coffee? He says, yes. Try to repeat carefully and see what happens. If I repeat coffee with veneration, then I begin to understand the force of repetition. Repeat the idea that you should become better. That is what Patanjali advises. Have a better taste to live a better life. Choose for yourself what is better. You need not allow anyone to advise you. It is enough if you want to be better. Then you repeat what I say, he says. Observe the movement of your respiration. There is nothing to understand there. But do it for 5 minutes. There is nothing to understand. But do it